The day I buried my father, I came home to find another woman living in my house. Just like that, as if grief wasn't enough, I walked through my front door to see her perched on my kitchen counter, wearing my husband's favourite shirt, drinking coffee from my father's old mug. I'm Sophia, and this is how I learned that revenge is best served with a smile. "Oh, you're back! Early!" Viviana chirped, like we were old friends, and this was perfectly normal. My husband Tyler stood behind her, his hand on her waist, wearing the guilty expression of a man who thought he could manage both worlds indefinitely. I set my purse down slowly, my black funeral dress suddenly feeling too tight. "Early? From burying my father?" "Sophia, honey." My mother-in-law Audrey's voice sliced through the tension as she emerged from the guest room. "We need to talk about arrangements going forward. Viviana will be staying with us for a while." The universe has a sick sense of humour. 3 weeks of watching cancer take my father, of holding his hand while he whispered his final pieces of wisdom, and this was my welcome home party. "Arrangements," I repeated, my voice steady despite the scream building in my throat. "In my house." Tyler stepped forward, all rehearsed sympathy. "Baby, I know this is a shock, but you've been distant, grieving. A real marriage needs... A real woman would understand his needs," Audrey cut in, her perfectly manicured hand patting my shoulder. "You've been so wrapped up in your father's illness, dear. Men require attention." I looked at the mug in Viviana's hands, the one Dad gave me when I passed the bar exam. "Put that down," I said quietly. "What?" Viviana blinked, confused. The mug. "Put it down and get out." Tyler moved between us. "Sophia, you're being hysterical. This isn't like you." "You're right." I smiled and they all flinched. The old Sophia would scream, cry, throw things. But my father taught me better. I walked to the kitchen counter, took the mug from Viviana's hands, and washed it carefully. "You have 1 hour to get your things and leave." Audrey laughed. That practiced, condescending sound I'd endured for 7 years of marriage. "Darling, you can't just..." "1 hour," I repeated, drying the mug. "Or I call the police and have you removed for trespassing." "This is my house too." Tyler's voice rose, that familiar vein in his neck pulsing. "You can't just..." "Can't I?" I set the mug in its place. "Interesting assumption." Viviana slid off the counter, finally looking uncertain. "Tyler, maybe we should..." "No!" He slammed his hand on the counter. "Sophia, you're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. I've given you everything. This house, your lifestyle, everything." I thought about Dad's last words, his papery hands gripping mine. "Remember, butterfly. When you offer gold to snakes, they'll still try to bite. Protect yourself." "Tyler," I said softly, "what makes you think you gave me anything?" His face reddened. "I bought this house. My company..." "Did you?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts. "Should we call the property office? Or maybe we should discuss where the startup capital for your precious company really came from." The silence was delicious. Audrey's perfect mask cracked slightly. Tyler's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "1 hour," I repeated. "And, Viviana, that shirt you're wearing? It's Valentino. I'll take it now." She stripped it off, standing there in her tank top, face burning. I dropped the shirt in the trash. "Sophia," Tyler tried again, softer now. "Baby, let's talk about this. You're hurt, I understand, but..." 55 minutes, I checked my watch. And counting. They didn't move. I pulled out my phone again and dialed. "Who are you calling?" Audrey demanded. "Annalise," I said, watching their faces pale. "My best friend, and, coincidentally, the most ruthless lawyer in the state." "Is everything ready?" The answer made me smile. Dad was right. Snakes will always show their nature. But he forgot to mention one thing. butterflies can have venom too. I hung up and faced my husband, his mother, and his mistress. Time's ticking, and trust me, you don't want to be here when the clock runs out. Finally, they moved. As they scrambled to gather their things, I sat at the kitchen table, cradling Dad's old mug. 7 years of marriage, of playing the perfect wife, of letting Audrey's barbs slide, of supporting Tyler's dreams while shelving my own. It all ended with a whimper, not a bang. But this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I took a sip of coffee and watched them scurry. Dad always said revenge is a poison that kills the soul, but he never saw his little girl treated like this. Sometimes poison is exactly what the doctor ordered. They're going to fight this, Annalise said, spreading documents across my dining room table. Tyler's already called 3 times threatening legal action. I poured us both wine, watching the evening sun cast shadows through the windows of what was now, officially and solely, my house. Let them fight? How many names are on the deed? Just one? She grinned, tapping the property title. Your father was brilliant, putting everything in your name before the wedding. Tyler never even checked. The memory of Dad signing these papers flooded back. Marriage is beautiful, he'd said, but protect yourself first, butterfly. Love shouldn't cost you everything. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. I silenced it. What about the accounts? I asked. All secured. Annalise pulled up her laptop. The joint accounts are frozen, and I've already transferred your personal assets, including those company shares. The ones Tyler convinced me to buy with my inheritance. I sipped my wine. Funny how he forgot that part. Not just funny, legally binding. Annalise's eyes gleamed. You own 15% of his company outright. And guess what our PI found? She slid over a manila envelope. Inside were photos of Viviana leaving hotels, receipts for jewellery, and, most damning, bank statements showing company funds being funneled into personal accounts. They've been at it for 8 months, Annalise explained. While you were caring for your father, they were charging their little romance to the company card. My hand tightened around the wine glass. 8 months. All those nights I'd called, crying about Dad's deteriorating condition, and Tyler had been with her. There's more, Annalise continued, pulling out another file. Your mother-in-law's been busy too. Look at these consulting fees. The numbers made me laugh. 60,000 a month. For what? Teaching Tyler how to be a mama's boy. For fraud. Annalise's smile turned predatory. Audrey's been siphoning company money through a shell corporation. The best part? Tyler signed off on everything. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Audrey. You're making a terrible mistake. Tyler's willing to forgive you. Forgive me? I showed Annalise the message. That's rich. Speaking of rich. She pulled out another document. Remember that downtown property Tyler's company just bought? Guess who owned the shell company that sold it? Audrey, I breathed. Bingo. She made millions on the flip using insider information. The SEC would love to hear about that. My doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Tyler standing there, looking dishevelled. Sophia! He shouted. Open the door! This is still my house! I pressed the intercom. Is it? Check your mail, Tyler. What are you talking about? The certified letter from my lawyer. You know, the one explaining that you have no legal claim to this property. The one detailing how attempting to enter constitutes criminal trespassing. His face contorted. You can't do this to me after everything I've given you. Given me? I laughed. Let's talk about what you've taken. My time, my money, my dignity. Oh, and apparently my coffee mugs. This isn't you, he pleaded. You're not this person. You're right. I'm not the person you married. That woman died watching her father take his last breath while her husband was screwing his assistant. Annalise appeared beside me, phone in hand. Should I call the police, or would you prefer to leave on your own? Tyler's face darkened. You think you can just destroy everything we built? We? I pressed my hand against the door. I built this, Tyler. My father's money built your company. My connections brought in your investors. My sacrifice gave you everything. And now, I'm taking it all back. He opened his mouth to argue, but his phone rang. From his expression, I knew exactly who it was. Better take that, I said sweetly. It might be your biggest investor, wondering why company funds were used to buy Viviana's apartment. He answered the phone, walking away quickly, his free hand pulling at his hair, a nervous tell I'd known for years. Annalise closed the security app. You know they'll try to fight the share transfers. Let them. I returned to the dining room, picking up the photo of Audrey leaving the bank. The longer they fight, the more we find. Have you seen the look on his face when he realizes he's not in control? Almost as good as Audrey's face will look when the board sees these numbers. Annalise raised her glass. To karma. To Dad, I corrected, clinking glasses. He always said the truth comes out eventually. My phone pinged with an alert from the PI, new photos arriving. I opened the file and felt my breath catch. There was Audrey, leaving another bank, carrying documents marked with the company logo. Well, I showed Annalise the image. Looks like Mama's been busy today. Perfect timing, Annalise grinned. The SEC loves fresh evidence. I looked around my quiet house, remembering all the dinner parties, all the times I'd played the perfect hostess, while Audrey criticised every detail. Now, the table held the weapons of their destruction, papers, photos, proof. Send everything, I said. It's time they learned what happens when you underestimate a grieving daughter. I watched through my security cameras as their car pulled into the driveway. Tyler, Audrey and Viviana returning from their weekend getaway. A last hurrah before reality hit. They'd find it waiting on the front lawn. Every single thing they owned piled neatly on the sidewalk. What the hell? Tyler's voice carried through the camera's audio as he slammed his car door. Sophia, what is this? I stepped onto the balcony, looking down at them. Welcome home. Or should I say, welcome to the sidewalk? Viviana rushed to her designer bags, sprawled across the grass. These are worth thousands. Then you should probably grab them before someone else does. I smiled, watching Audrey's face turn an interesting shade of purple. You've lost your mind, Audrey sputtered, marching toward the front door. The new lock stopped her cold. Open this door immediately. No, I don't think I will. I held up a stack of papers. But I do have some light reading for you. Restraining orders, trespassing warnings, and, my personal favourite, a cease and desist regarding company assets. Tyler stormed forward. You can't do this. I'm your husband. Correction, you were my husband. Now you're just a man who cheated on his wife while she watched her father die. I tossed the papers down, watching them scatter. Careful with those. They're legally binding. Sophia! Viviana stepped forward, hands pressed to her stomach. You need to know. I'm pregnant. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Really? That's interesting, considering the medical records my PI obtained showing you renewed your birth control prescription last week. Her face crumpled. Tyler whirled on her. You said you were sure. Oh, trouble in paradise? I leaned on the railing. Don't worry, Tyler. I'm sure your mother can buy you another girlfriend. She's good at spending company money, isn't she? Audrey's head snapped up. What are you implying? Nothing yet. But the SEC might have some questions about those consulting fees. $60,000 a month is quite a rate for doing absolutely nothing. A crowd was gathering now, neighbours pretending to walk their dogs, delivery drivers slowing down. Perfect. You're making a scene, Tyler hissed. No, you made the scene when you moved your mistress into our house the day I buried my father. I straightened up. You have 30 minutes to remove your belongings from my property. After that, they're going to charity. Your property? Audrey scoffed. This house was bought with Tyler's money. Wrong again. I held up another document. This house was my inheritance. Dad put it in my name before the wedding. Check the deed. If you can read through all that Botox. Tyler's phone started ringing. He checked it and his face went pale. It's the board of directors. They probably want to discuss the anonymous tip they received about financial irregularities. I checked my watch. 25 minutes now. Tick, tock. They scrambled for their belongings, dignity forgotten. Viviana crying over her bags, Audrey trying to maintain composure while carrying armfuls of her designer clothes, Tyler attempting to salvage both his phone call and what remained of his authority. This isn't over, he shouted up at me between trips to the car. You're right. I held up my phone. I'm recording this for my lawyer. Please, threaten me again. He shut up after that. As they loaded the last of their things, a familiar face appeared at the end of the driveway. Jordan, Tyler's former best friend and business partner, the one Audrey had convinced Tyler to push out years ago. Well, he called out, hands in his pockets. I'm back in town and I've been waiting for this. Tyler's face went from red to white. Jordan? Hey, buddy. Jordan's smile was all teeth. Remember those NDAs you made me sign? Guess what happens when there's evidence of corporate fraud? Audrey grabbed Tyler's arm. Don't engage. Our lawyers will handle this. Your lawyers? I called down. Better check your accounts first. Freezing those assets was step one. They piled into their cars, Viviana's designer bags crammed in the trunk, Audrey's perfectly curated life reduced to boxes in the back seat. As they pulled away, Jordan looked up at me. Nice show, he said. Need any help cleaning up? I thought about my father's funeral, how Tyler hadn't even bothered to hold my hand as they lowered the casket, how Audrey had whispered that I was making a spectacle when I cried. No, I replied, watching their cars disappear. But I could use your help with phase 2. Jordan's smile widened. I thought you'd never ask. I've got files they won't want the investors to see. I looked at the empty driveway, remembering all the times I'd waited here for Tyler to come home, making excuses for his late nights at the office. Now, I knew exactly where he'd been, and exactly what it would cost him. Perfect, I said. Let's make them regret every single lie. Your husband's company lost 40% of its value this morning, Jordan said, sliding a tablet across my kitchen counter. Turns out, investors don't like finding out their money funded someone's affair. I poured him coffee in Dad's old mug, a small gesture of trust. How bad is it? 3 board members resigned after those financial records leaked, the ones showing Audrey's consulting fees. He grinned. Funny how quickly rats abandon a sinking ship. My phone buzzed with a text from Viviana. We need to talk privately. Speaking of rats, I showed Jordan the message. Think she's ready to turn? Only one way to find out. I met Viviana at a coffee shop downtown. She'd lost the designer confidence, now fidgeting in last season's clothes. The pregnancy test was fake, she blurted before I could sit down. Tyler told me to do it. I know. I placed my phone on the table, recording app open. Want to tell me what else Tyler told you to do? Her eyes darted to the phone. He'll kill me. No, he won't. But the SEC might be interested in how you helped him move company money around. She broke like cheap glass. It was Audrey's idea. She said I could have everything you had. The house, the lifestyle, Tyler. She showed me how to backdate expense reports, set up fake vendor accounts. And the affair, when did that start? Last Christmas. Tears smeared her mascara. At the company party. You were at the hospital with your dad. I remembered that night. Dad had coded twice. I'd called Tyler 17 times. Keep talking, I said, pushing down the memory. She spilled everything. Dates, amounts, account numbers. By the time she finished, my coffee was cold, and my recording had enough to bury them all. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now? You leave town tonight. Because when this hits the news tomorrow, you don't want to be here." Back home, Jordan was on the phone with investors while Annalise reviewed the recording. "This is gold," Annalise said, "but the real prize just landed in my inbox." Audrey's financial advisor finally cracked. She pulled up emails showing Audrey had been forging Tyler's signature on company documents for years. Millions siphoned through fake consultancy firms, all leading back to offshore accounts. "Mother of the year," Jordan muttered. "Want me to leak it?" "Not yet. I had a better idea. Set up a meeting with Audrey, just her." 2 hours later, Audrey sat across from me in my living room, all false bravado and expensive perfume. "Come to apologise?" she asked. "Actually," I slid the financial documents across the coffee table, "I came to negotiate." She barely glanced at them. "These prove nothing." "Really?" "Because the SEC thinks they prove quite a lot. Fraud, forgery, insider trading. You wouldn't dare." But her hand shook as she reached for her water glass. "Try me, or—" I leaned back. "You could resign. All boards, all companies. Release a statement about wanting to spend time with family. Disappear quietly. And if I don't, then tomorrow morning, every financial publication gets proof that you stole millions from your own son's company. Tyler goes to prison, you go to prison, and I smiled. I get to watch." Her mask cracked. You vindictive little—" "Careful," I cut her off. "Your next words determine whether you retire in comfort or an orange jumpsuit." She stood abruptly, pacing. "You think you've won. You think this makes you strong. No, Audrey. Watching my father die made me strong. You and Tyler just made me angry. Tyler was right. You changed after your father died. I woke up. There's a difference." I handed her a pre-written statement. "You have 1 hour to decide. Choose wisely." After she left, Jordan emerged from my home office where he'd been listening. "She'll cave," he said. "She loves her reputation more than she loves Tyler." "I know." I picked up my laptop, opening a document I'd been working on. "How's this for a title? Sleeping with Snakes, My Marriage to a Man Raised by One." Jordan read the first page of my memoir and whistled. "This will destroy them." "That's the point." My phone rang. Annalise. "Turn on the news," she said. "Audrey's at some charity luncheon and, well, just watch." I flipped on the TV to see Audrey being carried out on a stretcher, apparently having suffered a stroke mid-speech. "Convenient timing," Jordan remarked. I watched the footage carefully. Something was off about how she fell, how her hand clutched her chest rather than her head. "Too convenient," I said. "She's playing for sympathy, trying to delay the inevitable." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "What now?" I closed my laptop, thinking of Dad's last smile, his final lesson about standing your ground. "Now," I smiled. "Now we show her what real pain looks like. Your mother-in-law's miraculous recovery took exactly 3 days," Annalise announced, striding into the courtroom. "Just long enough to miss her deposition." I smoothed my black dress, the same one I'd worn to Dad's funeral. "How convenient." The judge wasn't impressed. Annalise's heels clicked against the marble floor. "Especially after I showed him her credit card statement. Apparently, stroke victims don't go shopping at Gucci the day after their collapse." The courtroom doors burst open. Tyler stormed in, his once expensive suit now wrinkled, his face unshaven. "You've ruined my life," he shouted across the room. "Are you happy now?" Security moved toward him, but I held up my hand. "Let him speak. I want everyone to hear this." "I gave you everything." His voice cracked. And you destroyed it all because what? I found someone who actually cared about my needs? Your needs? I stood slowly. Let's talk about needs, Tyler. I needed my husband when my father was dying. Where were you? I was building our future. You were building a life with your mistress using stolen money. I nodded to Annalise, who started playing an audio file on her tablet. Viviana's voice filled the courtroom. Tyler told me to fake the pregnancy. He said it would make Sophia look hysterical when she found out about us. Tyler's face went white. That's not... She's lying. Really? I pulled out my phone. Should we call the clinic where you took her for the fake test? The one you paid for with the company card? Before he could respond, the doors opened again. Viviana walked in, flanked by 2 SEC agents. Hello, Tyler, she said quietly. I told them everything. He lunged toward her. You promised... Order. The judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot. Mr. Hall, control yourself or be removed. Viviana took the stand, her designer confidence stripped away. For 3 hours she detailed every transaction, every forged document, every lie. Tyler slumped lower with each revelation. And Mrs. Hall, Audrey, Viviana continued, she said Sophia was weak, that Tyler deserved someone stronger. She helped us set up the accounts. During a recess, Tyler approached me in the hallway. I'll give you anything. Just stop this. Anything. I smiled. Like when I begged you to come to Dad's chemo treatments? Or when I pleaded with you to spend one night. Just one at the hospice. That was different. You're right. That was about love and loyalty. This is about justice. His lawyer called him away, whispering urgently about plea deals and asset forfeitures. I watched him go, remembering our wedding day, how Dad had pulled him aside. Take care of my butterfly. Back in session, the evidence mounted. Company emails, bank statements, hotel receipts. Tyler's empire crumbled in real time. Your Honor, Annalise stood, we have one final witness. The courtroom doors opened one last time. Audrey walked in, her stroke forgotten in her rage. You ungrateful little witch, she spat as she passed me. Mrs. Hall, the judge warned, control yourself. On the stand, Audrey's performance was Oscar-worthy. She spoke of Tyler's hard work, my emotional instability, her own innocent role as a concerned mother. Then Annalise started her cross-examination. Mrs. Hall, can you explain these transfers? She projected bank statements onto the screen. $6 million moved through shell companies, all registered to your address? Business consulting? For what services exactly? Because our forensic accountants found no evidence of any work performed. Audrey's mask cracked. I was protecting my son's interests. By stealing from his company? By securing his future? Audrey stood pointing at me. She never deserved him. She was supposed to be broken after her father died. She was supposed to let Tyler go. The courtroom fell silent. Even her lawyer looked stunned. To be clear, Annalise said quietly, you're admitting to orchestrating this entire situation? The affair, the fraud, all of it? Audrey's face went from red to white as she realized what she'd done. The judge had heard enough. Within hours, temporary orders were issued freezing all assets. Tyler received court summons for fraud, misuse of investor funds, and breach of fiduciary duty. As we left the courthouse, a courier handed me an envelope. Inside was a photo that made my blood run cold. My father with Audrey, dated 25 years ago. They were smiling, his hand on her waist. What is this? I whispered. Annalise peered at the photo. Sophia. When exactly did your parents get married? I stared at the date stamp, my mind racing. 25 years ago, 9 months before Tyler was born. I need to talk to my mother, I said, my voice shaking. Now. The victory I'd just won suddenly felt hollow as a new, more personal battle loomed. Because if what I suspected was true, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about family. My mother's hand shook as she held the photograph. We sat in her kitchen, the same one where Dad used to make Sunday pancakes, where he'd taught me to always face hard truths head on. "Mum," I said softly, "I need you to tell me everything." She burst into tears. "Your father, he had another life long ago. Audrey was part of it." "Before you?" "During." She wiped her eyes. "We were separated for 6 months. He and Audrey. It was brief but intense." The implications hit me like a physical blow. "Mum, please tell me Tyler isn't—" "I don't know," she whispered. "Audrey was pregnant when your father came back to me. She disappeared for a while, then resurfaced married to Robert Hall." My head spun. Could I have accidentally married my half-brother? The thought made me sick. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Edmund made me promise." She pulled out an old letter from her kitchen drawer. "He wrote this before he died. Said to give it to you if the truth ever came out." I opened it with trembling fingers. "My dearest butterfly, if you're reading this, you've discovered my greatest shame. The months I spent with Audrey nearly destroyed everything I held dear. When she told me she was pregnant, I was ready to leave your mother. But then I discovered Audrey's other relationships. She'd been seeing Robert Hall the entire time. I never knew if the child was mine. Audrey refused a paternity test, married Robert and named him as the father. I chose to return to your mother, to rebuild what I'd broken. It was the best decision I ever made. I'm sorry for keeping this from you. I hope you can forgive me. Love, Dad." "We need a DNA test," I said, standing up. "Now." Annalise arranged it quietly through a private lab. The waiting was excruciating. "If he's your brother," she said, "the marriage is automatically void. Everything you've done legally still stands, but I'll have committed emotional incest," I finished, feeling nauseated. 3 days later, we had our answer. I stared at the results in my living room, Jordan and Annalise on either side of me. 0% probability of sibling relationship, Annalise read aloud. "Tyler isn't your brother." The relief was overwhelming. So, Robert Hall really was his father. "Looks like Audrey's been lying longer than we thought," Jordan said. My phone rang Tyler's number. "Don't answer it," Annalise warned, but I did. "Hello?" "I know about the DNA test," he slurred, obviously drunk. "Mother dearest finally told me everything. Happy now? You've destroyed every part of my life." "You did that yourself, Tyler." "Did I?" He laughed bitterly. "You know what's funny? I actually loved you once. Before Mother showed me how weak you were, how you'd never be good enough. Goodbye, Tyler." "Wait!" His voice cracked. "I have nothing left. No company, no money, no reputation. Even Viviana's gone public with her story. Help me, please." For a moment, I remembered the man I'd married, the one who used to bring me coffee in bed, who danced with me in the rain on our first date. "You want help?" I said quietly. "Here's the truth. Your mother manipulated you your entire life. She pushed away anyone who truly cared about you. And you let her, because it was easier than standing up to her." Silence on the line. "The man I married died long before I found Viviana in our kitchen," I continued. "He died the moment he chose his mother's approval over his wife's love. Sophia, goodbye, Tyler. For real this time." I hung up, feeling strangely empty. "You okay?" Jordan asked. "No," I admitted. "I'm angry, not just at Tyler or Audrey, but at my father too. He knew what kind of woman she was and never warned me." "Maybe he thought he was protecting you," Annalise suggested. "Or maybe he was protecting himself," I said. His shame let Audrey hurt me in ways he never imagined. Jordan touched my shoulder. What now? I looked at the DNA results then at Dad's letter. All these secrets, all these lies spanning decades, the weight of them had crushed so many lives. Now, I picked up my laptop. Now I finish my book. Every dirty secret, every manipulation, every lie, it all comes out. They'll try to stop you, Annalise warned. Let them try. I opened the document and began typing. The truth destroyed my marriage. It's only fair it destroys their lives too. As I wrote, I could almost hear Dad's voice. Be careful, Butterfly. Revenge can consume you. But he was wrong about that too. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was liberation. From Tyler's betrayal, from Audrey's manipulation, and yes, even from Dad's well-meaning lies. The truth, as they say, shall set you free. Let me in, Sophia. Tyler's drunken voice echoed through my security system. We need to talk. I watched him sway on my doorstep through the camera feed. 3 months since the court proceedings began, and he'd finally cracked. Jordan, I spoke into my phone, you recording this? Every second, he replied. Keep him talking. I pressed the intercom. Talk about what, Tyler? How you destroyed your company? How you let your mother control your entire life? I lost everything because of you. He slammed his hand against the door. The board voted me out today. Did you know that? Your friend Jordan's taking over as CEO. Actually, I did know. I voted my shares in favour of it. He laughed hysterically. Of course you did. You and Jordan probably planned this from the start. Were you sleeping with him too? You're the only cheater in this marriage, Tyler. I kept my voice steady. Want to talk about that? About how you spent my father's last Christmas with Viviana while I sat alone in the hospital? I made mistakes. He slid down against the door. I know that now. Mother, she always said you were too weak, too focused on your father. She said a real man needed more. And now? What does Mother Dearest say now that her fraud charges have been filed? His voice broke. She won't talk to me. No one will. Viviana's book deal, the interview she's doing. Karma's a bitter pill, isn't it? Help me, he whispered. Please, I'll admit everything. The affairs, the money, all of it. Just make it stop. I opened the door. He fell backward, looking up at me from the floor. The mighty Tyler Hall reduced to a drunk mess on my doorstep. You want to confess? I held up my phone. Start talking. And he did. For 2 hours, he spilled everything. How Audrey had orchestrated the affair with Viviana. How they'd systematically siphoned money through fake accounts. How they'd planned to push me out once my father died, assuming grief would break me. I never thought you'd fight back, he admitted. Mother said you'd crumble. Your mother never knew me, I said, stopping the recording. Neither did you. What happens now? Now? I smiled. Now this recording goes to the prosecutors, along with a few other surprises. His eyes widened. What surprises? Remember Jordan's NDAs? The ones your mother made you force him to sign? Turns out they're void if criminal activity is involved. He's been keeping receipts for years. Tyler stumbled to his feet. You can't. I already did. The SEC has everything. The FBI too. You might want to call your lawyer. As if on cue, his phone rang. His face went pale as he answered it. No, I'm not fleeing. I'm at... Yes, I understand. He hung up, swaying slightly. They're issuing arrest warrants. For me and Mother. I know. I checked my watch. They should be picking her up from her yoga class right about now. He lunged at me suddenly, but years of rage had made him clumsy. I stepped aside, and he crashed into the wall. Security's already called the police, I said calmly. Should I add assault charges to your list? He slumped to the floor, crying. This broken man had once been my everything. Now he was just pathetic. The police arrived within minutes. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time. I did love you once, he said. No, I replied. You loved the idea of me. The quiet, supportive wife who'd never challenge you or your mother. That woman died the day you moved your mistress into our home. After they left, Jordan and Annalise came over. The news was already breaking across financial networks. Tech, CEO arrested for fraud, mother implicated in scheme. Viviana's interview airs tomorrow, Annalise said, pouring wine. The morning shows are calling it explosive. And the company? I asked Jordan. Stock's stabilising. The board's confident about the restructuring. He smiled. Being CEO suits me. With a silent partner, I added, raising my glass. My phone buzzed, a news alert. They were showing Audrey being led out of her yoga studio in handcuffs, her perfect mask finally cracking as reporters swarmed. Your memoir drops next week, Annalise reminded me. Ready to see your name on the bestseller list? I thought about Dad, about his last words, about protecting myself. He'd been trying to shield me from his past mistakes, never realising he'd taught me something more valuable, how to rise from the ashes of betrayal. You know what's funny? I said, watching Audrey's arrest footage again. They thought they were breaking a wife. Instead, they created their own destruction. The doorbell rang. More reporters, probably. But I didn't need to answer. My story was already written, my revenge served cold and complete. Let them stand outside. I was finally free inside. The prison visiting room smelled like cheap coffee and regret. I sat across from Tyler, watching him fidget in his orange jumpsuit. He'd lost weight, his designer stubble replaced by unkempt scruff. Why are you here? He asked. I placed a photo of my father on the table between us. To show you something you never understood. Your father? He wouldn't meet my eyes. What about him? This was taken the day I passed the bar exam. See how proud he looks? I tapped the image. That's what a real man looks like, Tyler. Someone who builds people up instead of tearing them down. Is that why you came? To gloat? No. I pulled out a stack of papers. I came to give you these. Divorce papers already signed. You get nothing, but you already knew that. He stared at the papers, then at me. Your book. Everyone's reading it. Everyone except Audrey. She's still claiming medical inability to stand trial. I smiled. Funny how her stroke keeps coming and going. She hasn't visited, he said quietly. No one has, except you. That's the thing about manipulators, Tyler. When they can't use you anymore, they disappear. A guard approached. Time's up. I stood, gathering my purse. Goodbye, Tyler. Wait! His handcuffs clinked against the table. Was any of it real? Us? Once, I admitted. Before you let your mother turn you into someone I couldn't recognise. Back home, I walked into what used to be Dad's study. I'd transformed it into my writing room, his old desk now covered with letters from readers sharing their own stories of betrayal and redemption. My phone buzzed. Jordan. Board meeting's done. The company's officially stable. And my shares? Worth triple what they were under Tyler. Sweet justice, right? I hung up and opened my laptop, starting a new document. The cursor blinked, waiting. The doorbell rang. Viviana stood there, looking nervous. I didn't know if you'd see me, she said. Come in. I led her to the kitchen, the same spot where this all began. She placed an envelope on the counter. My publisher wants to do a follow-up book about everything. I wanted to ask if that's okay. Why wouldn't it be? Because, she twisted her hands, I destroyed your marriage. No, I poured us both coffee, deliberately using Dad's old mug. Tyler and Audrey destroyed my marriage. You were just their weapon of choice. I'm sorry anyway. She looked around. This house? It's different now. Because it's mine. Really, mine. I sipped my coffee. Tell your story, Viviana. Just remember, karma watches everything. After she left, I returned to my writing room. A new email waited. Audrey's medical condition had been exposed. Her trial would proceed next month. My mother called next. The reporters are asking about the old photos again, about Edmund and Audrey. Tell them the truth, I said. Let them see who she really is. Are you happy? She asked suddenly. With how everything turned out? I looked at Dad's photo on my desk. I'm free. That's better than happy. The sun was setting when Annalise came over with takeout and files. Tyler signed the papers, she announced. It's done. Not quite. I opened my laptop, showing her the new document. I'm writing again. Another memoir? No, a letter to my father. I started typing. Dear Dad, you taught me to protect myself, but you never taught me how strong I could be. That was a lesson I had to learn alone. Your butterfly didn't just spread her wings. She learned to weather the storm. Annalise read over my shoulder. You're not posting this anywhere? No, this one's just for me. We ate dinner on my back porch, watching the stars emerge. No more pretending at perfect dinner parties. No more enduring Audrey's critical glances. No more waiting up for a husband who was never coming home. You know what the best revenge was? I said, finishing my wine. Living well. And the worst? Realizing revenge doesn't fill the holes they left. I stood, gathering our plates. But it does clear the ground for something new to grow. Inside, I washed Dad's old coffee mug one last time. Tomorrow it would go in a memory box, along with the photo from the prison and the letter I'd just written. Not forgotten, but not controlling my future either. The house creaked softly, settling into night. My house, my life, my story. They thought they were breaking a wife. They never saw the phoenix rising. I closed my laptop, leaving the cursor blinking on the final line of my letter to Dad. Your butterfly learned to fly through fire. And Dad? The view from here is beautiful.